Picture a glittering ballroom in Imperial Russia, blazing with candlelight, packed with the most powerful people in the empire. And in the middle of it, one woman is being quietly destroyed, cut, ignored, whispered about, socially executed in slow motion for having an affair. Now look around that same room. Half the men in it are having affairs too. Her own brother, the one whose marriage she came to the city to repair, is a serial adulterer everyone finds charming. The difference is not the sin. The difference is that she is a woman. She got caught, and she had the nerve to love honestly instead of lying about it. That is the engine of one of the greatest novels ever written, published in 1878. A century and a half before the internet, Leo Tolstoy wrote the exact blueprint of the online pile-on, the way a crowd chooses one person to punish for a thing everybody is doing, the way the punishment always falls hardest on the woman, the way the mob is never really enforcing a rule, it is enjoying a sacrifice. Everyone remembers Anna Karenina as a doomed love story that ends under a train, and it is that. But it is also something sharper and stranger, a study of shame, of the double standard, and of what it costs to want a real life in a world that only rewards a convincing performance. And hidden inside it, in the subplot every reader is tempted to skip, stands the only genuinely happy person in the entire book. A man out in a field doing something the algorithm of high society would never even notice. The book is Anna Karenina, written by Leo Tolstoy and published in full in 1878, after appearing in installments across the 1870s. Tolstoy was a Russian count, a landowner, a soldier turned novelist, a restless moral searcher who would later give away much of his wealth and try to live like a peasant. He wrote from inside the world he was dissecting, the glittering aristocracy of St. Petersburg and Moscow, the country estates, the ballrooms and racecourses and railway stations of a Russia just beginning to modernize, steam engines cutting through the snow of an ancient empire. And he opens with what may be the most famous first line in all of literature, a single sentence that sets the whole machine in motion. Tolstoy writes, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." That line is the thesis of the entire book. Happiness, he is telling us, is quiet and ordinary and looks the same everywhere, which is exactly why we find it boring and skip past it. Unhappiness is dramatic, specific, endlessly fascinating, which is why we cannot look away, in novels or in each other's lives. Over 800 pages, Tolstoy braids together two families and two fates. Anna, who chases a real and honest love straight into catastrophe, and Levin, who fumbles toward an ordinary, unglamorous happiness that nobody in the story thinks is worth watching. One of them is the story everyone talks about. The other is the story Tolstoy actually believes in. And the genius of the book is that he makes you feel both, the magnetic pull of the tragedy and the quiet truth of the life beside it. Here is the whole novel in one sentence. A woman reaches for an honest, complete love and is socially executed for the exact affair half the men around her are also having, while, in the story everyone skips, a man quietly digs the only real happiness in the book out of ordinary earth. Everything turns on that contrast between the life that looks thrilling and ends in wreckage, and the life that looks dull and turns out to be the point. Tolstoy is not warning you off passion, and he is not preaching at you. He is holding up two mirrors and asking which face is yours. We will walk it in 5 beats. First, the spark at the station, the fated meeting that lights the fuse. Second, one rule for him, another for her. The double standard that decides Anna's fate before she has done anything at all. Third, respect where love should be. The hollow, respectable marriage she refuses to keep performing. Fourth, the walls close in. The isolation, the jealousy, the slow spiral back to the tracks. And fifth, the man everyone skips. Levin out in his field, holding the answer Tolstoy deliberately buried in the subplot. Two lives, running side by side, the whole way down and the whole way up. Keep your eye on both, because the book is built so that you only understand one of them by watching the other. First beat, the spark at the station. Anna Karenina is a poised, intelligent married woman, the wife of a senior Petersburg official, and she comes to Moscow on an errand of damage control. Her brother, Steva Oblonsky, has been caught having an affair with the family governess, and his wife Dolly is shattered. Anna, the picture of grace, arrives to smooth it over, to counsel patience, to save the marriage. Hold on to that irony. She comes to town to clean up her brother's infidelity and leaves having begun her own. Because on the railway platform, in the steam and the snow, she meets a dashing young cavalry officer named Count Vronsky, and something magnetic and irreversible passes between them. And in that same moment, Tolstoy plants his omen. A railway worker slips and is crushed to death beneath a train right there on the platform. Anna calls it a bad omen. The reader files it away. It will come back. Notice already how differently the world treats the same act. Steva's affair is a joke, a bit of gossip, something everyone forgives over dinner because he is warm and likable and male. Anna has not done anything yet, but the instant she feels something real, the machinery of judgment is already warming up for her. This is the algorithm before there were algorithms, a fated collision you never planned, engineered by 100 small coincidences, and a social system that has already decided your feeling will cost you far more than his ever will. The scales were tipped before she stepped off the train. The takeaway of this first beat is simple and bitter. The same act is a shrug for him and a sentence for her, and the book knows it from page 1. Second beat. One rule for him, another for her. Back in Petersburg, Anna and Vronsky fall fully, recklessly in love. And here is what makes their story combustible. They do not hide it well. He pursues her openly at balls, at dinners, and most disastrously at the racecourse, where in front of the whole of society, she cannot keep the terror off her face when he is thrown from his horse. Everyone sees. And Petersburg society, the same drawing rooms where a good half of the guests are conducting their own discreet affairs, closes ranks and expels her. Not him. Him they keep. His career survives, his invitations keep arriving. A man with a mistress is a man of the world. But a woman who loves out loud is contaminated, and one by one the doors shut in her face. This is the beating heart of the novel's modern relevance. The crowd is not punishing adultery. Adultery is everywhere in these rooms, tolerated, even winked at. The crowd is punishing exposure, and it is punishing a woman for the sin of being honest about a desire the men around her satisfy in secret. Watch a modern pile-on and you will see the identical logic. The mob rarely descends on the worst offender. It descends on the one who got caught and refused to grovel. The shaming is never really about the rule. It is about the pleasure of having someone to cast out, and the quiet relief of everyone in the room who is guilty of the same thing and got away with it. The takeaway: the crowd does not punish the crime. It punishes the person unlucky enough to be seen and honest enough not to lie about it. Third beat. Respect where love should be. Anna is still on paper married to Alexei Karenin, a cold, ambitious, deeply respectable government official who cares far more about how things look than about anything Anna actually feels. When the affair becomes undeniable, Karenin does not rage and he does not grieve. He calculates. He offers Anna a deal. Keep up the appearance of the marriage, preserve his good name and his career, and in exchange, she keeps a roof, a position, and the right to see their beloved little son, Seryoza. All she has to do is stop making a scene and live inside the shell. And Anna, to the scandal of everyone, refuses. She would rather have a real feeling that destroys her than a respectable arrangement that slowly embalms her alive. Tolstoy gives Anna a line that cuts straight through the whole hypocrisy of it. She reflects that respect was invented to cover the empty place where love should be. Sit with that, because it is not just about a 19th century marriage. It is about every relationship kept alive for the optics, the couple who stay together for the children, or for the shared mortgage, or for the photographs. The partnership run like a brand long after the feeling has died. Respect, decency, keeping up appearances. Tolstoy is saying these can be the polite plaster we spread over a hole where love used to be, and then call a wall. Anna's tragedy is partly that she is too honest to live inside that plaster. The takeaway of this beat is an uncomfortable one. A respectable arrangement with no love in it is not safety. It is a slow, quiet tragedy that everyone has agreed to call a marriage. Fourth beat, the walls close in. Having chosen Vronsky and lost almost everything else, Anna discovers that love won at that price cannot carry the whole weight she now piles onto it. Cast out of society, separated from her son, with nothing left to define her but Vronsky's feelings, she begins to smother the very thing she sacrificed everything for. She grows jealous, suspicious, dependent, reading rejection into his every absence, his every cooler glance, leaning on morphine to get through the nights. She has staked her entire self on one man's love, and so every flicker of distance reads as annihilation. Anyone who has lain awake refreshing a screen, decoding a slow reply, spiraling a silence into proof of abandonment, knows this descent from the inside. It is the sunk cost trap of a love that has cost too much to question. Isolated, exhausted, convinced she has already lost him, Anna goes down to a railway station outside the city, and, the memory of that crushed watchman dragging her back to the very first platform, throws herself under a train. And Tolstoy writes her final moment as one of the most devastating sentences in all of fiction. And the light by which she had read the book, filled with troubles, falsehoods, sorrow and evil, flared up more brightly than ever before, lighted up for her all that had been in darkness, flickered, began to grow dim, and was quenched forever. The omen from the platform has closed its circle. The takeaway is as tender as it is terrible. When your entire sense of worth is staked on one person's gaze, losing that gaze feels like losing your very right to exist. And no love, however real, was ever built to hold that much. Fifth beat. The man everyone skips. Running alongside Anna's descent, in the chapters most readers quietly confess they skim, is Konstantin Levin, an awkward, earnest landowner who would far rather be out in his fields than in any ballroom. Levin is bad at society, bad at small talk, hopeless at the smooth games Vronsky plays so easily. He is rejected by Kitty, sulks off to his estate, and there does something no glamorous character in the book would dream of. He takes up a scythe and mows hay all day beside his own peasants until his mind goes quiet and his body aches, and he is for a few hours simply and wordlessly happy. Slowly, off to the side, Levin builds the only functioning life in the novel. He wins Kitty back. They marry. He wrestles with faith and doubt and the raw terror of death, and he keeps working the land. He is not spared pain. His brother dies. His own dark thoughts nearly undo him, but he keeps choosing the small, unspectacular, real thing. And in the novel's final pages, Levin arrives at Tolstoy's actual answer, the meaning the whole tragedy has been framing all along. He realizes that his life is no longer meaningless, but that it has the positive meaning of goodness, which I have the power to put into it. There it is, the point buried in the boring subplot. Meaning is not handed to you in a grand passion or a viral moment. It is something you put into ordinary days, one plain good act at a time. The takeaway: while everyone watches the woman burning brilliantly and fatally, the answer is standing quietly in a field, and Tolstoy hid it in exactly the place he knew you would not look. So what does all of it add up to? On the surface, Anna Karenina is a tragic love story. A beautiful woman, a dashing officer, a jealous ruin, a train. But underneath the melodrama, Tolstoy is running two arguments at once. The first is a merciless X-ray of the crowd. Society will forgive almost any sin committed quietly by the right kind of person, and destroy the one who loves too openly, especially if she is a woman. A mechanism we now watch replay online every single week. The second argument is the quieter one, and it is the one he actually stakes his heart on. Early in the book, Anna's charming, faithless brother lets slip a line that shimmers over the whole novel. All the variety, all the charm, all the beauty of life is made up of light and shadow. He means it as an excuse for his own appetites, but Tolstoy means it as the very structure of the book. Anna is the shadow, dazzling, doomed, unforgettable. Levin is the light, plain, patient, alive at the end. You need both to see the shape of a life, and the novel refuses to let you have one without the other. What makes it great is that Tolstoy never simply condemns Anna or canonizes Levin. He loves them both, feels the pull of both, and lays them side by side so that you feel, in your own chest, the difference between a life that performs and a life that is lived. The tragedy and the quiet happiness are not two books awkwardly stitched together. They are the light and the shadow of one honest picture of what it is to be human. Here is the one thing to carry out of this book and into your week. Notice which stories pull your attention and which ones you skip. We are built, all of us, to lean toward the shadow. The spectacular affair, the public meltdown, the train wreck we cannot look away from, the scandal lighting up the feed. Anna's story is magnetic precisely because it burns. But Tolstoy spends 800 pages gently pointing at the other thing, the one you keep scrolling past. The man in the field, the ordinary marriage, the quiet work, the small, repeated good act that no crowd will ever applaud. That, he insists, is where an actual life gets built. Not in the moments that go viral, but in the ones nobody is watching. So this week, try two things. When the pile-on starts, when the crowd picks its person and the delicious outrage begins to rise, ask yourself whether you are enforcing a rule or just enjoying a sacrifice, and whether you would survive the same scrutiny. And then, having asked it, turn away from the spectacle and toward your own unglamorous field. The relationship you could actually tend, the work you could do well, the plain kindness that will never trend. Anna teaches you what it costs to stake your whole self on one gaze and one performance. Levin teaches you the alternative, that meaning is not something that happens to you, it is something you put into ordinary days, on purpose, when no one is keeping score. The boring subplot was the answer the entire time. Tolstoy just trusted you to be quiet enough, eventually, to notice it. Leo Tolstoy spends the length of an entire world building one quiet, dangerous case. That the life everyone envies may be the one burning down. That the life everyone skips may be the one worth living. And that a crowd feels most righteous exactly when it is being most cruel. Anna wanted an honest love in a world that only rewarded a convincing lie, and it destroyed her. Levin wanted nothing the world admired, and quietly found the only happiness in the book. Both were true at once, the light and the shadow of the same human picture. If this walk through Anna Karenina gave you something worth keeping, subscribe. A new classic every week, faithfully, in about 20 minutes. Next time, we leave the ballrooms of Russia for the open ocean and Herman Melville's Moby-Dick. The story of a captain who straps his entire crew to his own private obsession, calls it a mission, and steers a whole functioning ship straight into the abyss to chase one white whale. And tell me in the comments, when you watch a modern pylon, are you enforcing a rule you actually believe in, or just enjoying the sacrifice? Be honest. Anna would want you to be.